the 10 toughest job interview questions from around the world with tips on how to answer them. Hi, how are you? I'm Romulo Gutierrez, and I've been a recruiter and talent selector for 27 years. This is the Job Room channel. I conducted a survey with over 2,000 recruiters and recruitment agencies worldwide, asking them which questions most often lead to candidates being rejected in interviews. And they told me everything, and I'm going to share with you the 10 questions that most often get candidates rejected, along with tips on how to answer them. So, pay close attention and take careful notes. The 10th most common question that leads to rejection is, what didn't you like about your last job? What was it that you didn't like about your last job? To answer this, make sure your response includes two things. First, quickly highlight to the hiring manager or recruiter what you liked and what you accomplished. So I could answer, look, I spent 2 years, for example, at J2W Metalworks. It was a great company. I learned to work with the 5S system, and I was also able to develop strong skills in Power BI. So for about 15 or 20 seconds, I highlight things I did and delivered, and ideally, these things should be related to the position I'm applying for now. For example, the position is for a production assistant. And in this job I'm applying for now, there are requirements for Power BI and the 5S program. And then I finish my answer by honestly mentioning something I didn't like, but in a way that doesn't directly conflict with the position I'm applying for. So let's suppose I notice that the job I'm applying for now has a very innovative profile. And where I used to work before, it was a more conservative environment, less innovative. Then I could say, and one of the reasons actually why I left the company is that I have a more innovative outlook on my work. I like new challenges, I like to innovate, and I didn't find that at the company where I worked, and that's what I didn't like. Just be careful when answering not to mention things you didn't like there, but that the job description says you'll find here. That's going to be a problem. Let's move on to the 9th question. Let's go. Which one eliminates more candidates? Actually, the 10th question eliminates 17% of candidates, and the 9th eliminates 21% of candidates. And pay attention, because the first question eliminates 75% of candidates. The 9th question is, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? And my recommendation is, try to align your next 5 years with the position you're applying for. Okay, so I'll give you an example H. I usually suggest 2 TI. PS first, professional goals related to the position in question, and second, a personal perspective where you share things with other people, especially if the interview is with human resu. Years. So I'll give you an example. The vacancy is for a logistics manager. Sticks. Look, 5 years from now, I want to keep specializing in the field of law. Istics. I have a dream of completing my MBA in logistics and supply chain management because I really want to work in this area of managing supply chain. Ins. So C, the position is asking for this R. Equisito. So I associate the future in relation. Tie-in. And then I bring in some perspec. Tie from my personal life. And on a personal level, I have a dream of buying a bigger house for my family, and that's 1 or 2 things I think a lot about for the next 5 years, okay? Do this because you'll show that your future focus is connected to the position. And what motivates us at work are also our personal expecta, personal vas. So it's cool to quote something. 8th most difficult question, and one that fails. Let's go with me to the first one. The 8th one fails there, 22% of. The candidates. Dates. Here we go. What makes you unique? After all, what makes you unique? Okay? When you answer this, try to highlight at least 2 behavioral strengths that you have. 2 behavioral strengths that you have. Me, Romulo Gutierrez. What makes me unique? My communication skills. I'm a communicative person, and also my ability to manage problems, to handle crises. I stand out compared to others in my field when it comes to that. So my answer is ready. So I would say, what makes me unique are 2 things. My ability to handle crises and my communicative ability. So I work these 2 elements. It is a question. Question. Try to bring up unique qualities that are also in line with the position you're applying for. Now, let's move on to the 7th question, which. stumps 29% of candidates. Before I continue, if you want to simulate a real, authentic job interview tailored to the position you're applying for, we can do a mock interview. Just contact me on this WhatsApp number. That's on the screen, okay? The country code is 5511 and the WhatsApp number is right there. Just reach out to me. Also, in the video description and in the first pinned comment, you'll find a link. So you can message me on WhatsApp. Then we can set it up and practice the interview so you can go in there and really shine and land that job for yourself. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. Of course, I really need your registration and like. The like button is right there. Leave your like because it helps me a lot. 7th most common and toughest question that gets people rejected. What are your biggest career achievements? Tell me, what are your best career achievements? So, when talking about your best career achievements, you should always use the STAR methodology. The STAR method is what you should use. What is the STAR method? With the STAR methods, you describe a situation, a task, an action, and the result you achieved. And choose a real case that is related. Notice how I keep mentioning the job description. For the position you're applying for, let's imagine a scenario now. I'm applying for a sales position, a salesperson for, say, electronics. Then they ask me, what are your best results? That's when I'll use the STAR method. I can say, look, regarding my best result, there was a situation where I worked at ABC Electronics, and we had a goal to sell 1,000 cell phones in a single month, and these were devices that were very diffy. Age of my task at first was to go through the digital records such as emails or logs and look for customers who had at some point inquired about that type of device, and from there, I took action. Situation, task, action. The action was to contact several customers by phone, by WhatsApp, reaching out to them one by one, talking about the cell phone promotion. Result. The 1,000 devices were sold in a single month, not just by me, but by the whole team, and I alone managed to sell 280 devices, which made me stand when I go to the front of my fellow salespeople. So, it's no use just saying the result. Try to quantify it, bring numbers as I brought in this example, bring facts as I brought in this example, elucidate the situation, action and question, as I said in this example. There you go. You'll be able to answer well about your results. The 6th question. Let's go. Let me even take a sip of water here. I need to drink some water. Why should you be hired? Why should you be hired? Some recruit. Or ask, why should I hire you? When you are asked about. And this, use the 3 simple elements technique. The technique of the 3 simple elements, which is what? Quickly bring up 3 technical reasons why you stand out for that position. And once again, I'll say it, a good reading of the job posting before the interview, the job description, open your phone, take notes, identify 3, 4, or 5 keywords that are directly related to the position, keywords that you possess. So, for example, the job opening is for financial manager. Why should you be hired? I noticed that in the job posting, they're asking for advanced Excel skills. They want someone who has knowledge of developing suppliers in China, okay? And with strong team leadership. So I can answer easily. I say, look, you should hire me for 3 simple reasons. First, I worked for 1.5 years at a Chinese multinational, so I can speak intermediate Mandarin, and I'll be able to develop suppliers there in China. And I will know how to develop suppliers there in China. Second point, I also have, yes, a good Excel capacity. This will help me a lot. You and all the technical part that I saw that the vacancy needs. So you will align yourself with the position from a technical standpoint, and that, is a really good answer. Now, about team leadership. I've been leading teams in the finance area for over 3 years, and I believe I can contribute both to the team members and also with the company, and that's why you should hire me. So notice that the answers aren't empty. They're backed by facts, real facts from my career, and obviously, these facts should match what I've already put on my LinkedIn or on my resume, okay? Let's move on to the 5th question. The 5th question that most often eliminates candidates in interviews. Name 2 of your weaknesses. This question, for example, eliminates 51% of candidates. A lot of people fail at this question. Name 2 of your weaknesses. When talking about your weaknesses in an interview, what do you need to keep in mind? First of all, try to talk about real weaknesses. There's no point in making things up that aren't true, because usually in global selection processes, there is some stage in the process, a psychological stage, a psychological test. So usually the recruiter gives the test and then sees that it's completely different from what you answered. It's something that's not cool. So mention real weaknesses. It's a question about self-awareness, and try to mention weaknesses, first of all, ones that aren't shocking to the job, that don't directly conflict with the position, that don't interfere with the job in question. And the second thing you need to consider is try to talk about weaknesses that you're working on, that you're improving. So for that financial manager position I mentioned, I could say, look, there are 2 weaknesses I need to work on. The first weakness is that I still don't have intermediate Spanish. For daily use, it's something I've needed to improve for a while now. So notice that the job doesn't even mention Spanish here, so it's a smart answer. Then I can bring up another weakness, avoid technical weaknesses, okay? I can say, look, I have a trait, a more reserved personality. I'm sometimes a bit quieter, more silent, more observant, and I've been trying to improve that. I meditate, and I've been taking acting classes, for example. You show that you've been working on the weakness you're mentioning, okay? For example, with Spanish, I downloaded an app called Spanish Now, where I study Spanish every day, a little before going to sleep, just to get better at it. And that's how you answer well about your weaknesses. Now, let's move on to the 4th question. The 4th question that eliminates the most candidates, which is, tell me a little about your professional background. Talk a little about your professional background. This question eliminates, on average, 59% of candidates. And I'm like, how can I put this? Anyone in a world where AIs are practically taking over or helping society, or even taking away some jobs, we have to know how to tell our professional story, know how to talk about our professional journey. I think that's a prerequisite for anyone who's listening to me anywhere in the world right now, okay? So, about your professional journey, THR, tips for telling it well. First, your answer should be 2, at most 3M. Inutes long. Recruiters and managers don't want long, boring, or tiresome stories. They don't want that. Second important point, try to build what I always call the hero's journey, WH. You start from the bottom and you come step by step, going up, telling your trajectory. So, I'll give an example here. Let's suppose that today I'm applying for a head chef position at an important restaurant in New York. And when they ask me about my professional journey, I say, look, I started in the food and beverage and culinary field as a waiter. My first step 12 years ago where I worked in a restaurant in Paris. There, I learned much more than just how to serve customers well. I also sometimes visited the kitchen and got some tips from the chef named Air. I see Jacqueline. From there, I grew a bit and became a kitchen assistant. Moving up the step, as a kitchen assistant, I did tasks like A, B, and C, and D. And from then on, I had my own restaurant, which was based in Boston. In my restaurant, I developed activities X, Y, Z, W, and I went to do A. So you keep telling your story, showing how you grew, your journey, showing what you studied, what why. You learned, what you developed. Your journey didn't. This started. Today, she started way back. This works very well in interviews, okay? Very well. In this trajectory, bring example, promotions. S of position, as I mentioned, numbers, data, facts, you will give a show telling the trajectory. Third question that most fails. If you are up to 15 minutes. And 25, leave a comment with a suggestion for the next video you want me to record. That really helps YouTube grow the channel, and make sure to leave your like as well, but don't forget your comment. The third question that most are in the interviews is, how do you handle pressure? How do you deal with pressure? It's an interesting question. If the recruiter or manager is asking you this question, it's very likely that the work environment you'll be facing will have pressure. So it's already a question that they're expecting a clear answer from you and that you will give an example of how you handle pressure. Once again, I'll go back to the star example. Give an example with situation, task, action, and result, just like I explained earlier, to show that you handle pressure. For example, now I'm a nurse and they ask me, how do you handle pressure? I quickly answer and give an example. Look, I usually handle pressure well, and I'll give you an example. And then comes the star example. At a certain moment, I was attending to a patient, and this patient had a very serious cardiorespiratory arrest. It was in the middle of the night, and at first my task was to provide first aid, and my immediate action after giving first aid was to call my team colleagues. From there, the medical team took action. We took the patient to the intensive care unit, and later, the patient made a good recovery. The result was that he got better, and I was able to stay calm to solve a complicated situation, a complex situation, and then you're going to answer how you handle pressure. It's no use just saying you handle pressure well. You need to show how you've actually dealt with pressure before. In this case, for the job description, it's a nursing position. The second most common question, this one is the one that fails people the most, or rather, this one actually eliminates 60% of the candidates. Define success in your professional field. Define success in your professional field. Just be careful, once again, to really focus on the job description, okay? If I'm applying for a position as a Java developer at a tech company that claims to be extremely innovative, obviously my idea of professional success will have to be some program, some software, something that I created that brought extraordinary results to people because it's a company that really values CR, values innovation. Now, let's suppose it's an engineering company and the position is for a safety engineer. What does it mean to define success? I read the job posting and it talks a lot about reducing workplace accidents, reducing SARE, serious work teeth. Result, I will have to count some success with number, with data, with fact, with people. In an example, that's fine, but it needs to be related to the requirements of the job posting. In this case, reducing workplace accidents. So tell a real story, back it up with number. Bears with data, with facts, and make sure that the success in that story is directly connected to the job description in question. Now, here's an important detail I want to mention. This point about being relevant to the job posting is very important because this job posting is usually written and designed by the recruiter and the department manager. It's created by both of them. As a result, they include the skills they need. So when your examples, your numbers, your facts, your stories are related to the job posting during the interview, they start to see you as a fit for the position. This really helps with getting approved. Then comes the question that causes the most rejections, which is the question, tell me a little about yourself. When you talk about yourself, keep 3 things in mind. First, keep your answer short. 2 minutes maximum. Second, cover both personal and professional aspects. When talking about yourself, it's about you as a person. Third point, smile and be pleasant when introducing yourself, but also stay true to your personality. So I could say, if they ask me in an interview now I'm going to intern in the veterinary field, and I could say, look, I'm Romulo Gutierrez, I'm 45 years old, just as an example. Okay? Ever since I was a child, I've really liked animals. At my house, for example, I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a rabbit. I'm passionate about any kind of pet. So, I'm married. I have 2 daughters. That's my personal life. As for hobbies, I like to go out with my pets, and I also really enjoy outdoor activities. I like the beach, and I like surfing, for example. Professionally, Then I tell a little bit about my professional background quickly in 30 or 40 seconds to give this introduction about myself. And that's what you're going to do. And I'm sure you're going to do great in your interview, and I have a follow-up video to this one you just watched. Watch it here. It will really help you with your preparation. Take care and see you next time. Bye-bye.